tell me I'm gonna be grilled and tortured, which I understand that they've been humiliated to this point. Because what they do to me, as a target individual, and I will always say the same thing. They've been manipulating me in different ways. If you ever feel something regarding teenager or how they you'll see. I've said all the different ways they manipulate me. It's kind of crazy how they think that somehow that will ever be something I subscribe to. Let me be honest. They've done that to babies. So the older kids is not that bad because the older kids look closer like adults. So they can easily manipulate me to look at these kids in a way I would look at an adult because some of them can, almost look like adults or, they're closer to being an adult. So they can create that perception much easier than like a little baby or even like a 10-year-old or something like that. But they do this. So you gotta put things in perspective. If they can force you to perceive children that are very young into in this disturbing sexual way, the older kids it's gonna be easier, right? If they look more like adults, they're gonna be trying to make me look at them in this adult way, when it's obvious that, when they can do that to like a baby that's like 10 years old. How can you even try to make me look at them in these perceptions? That's disgusting. So you have to understand that what they've been doing to me has been consistently manipulating my perceptions in this disgusting ways, in disturbing ways. But I'm not the first one. Like at this point, everything I say, I'm gonna bring testimonials that's similar, where they target individuals who are in the same circumstance I'm in, are forced or were, if they still might not be alive anymore, were forced to perceive things and get stimulations instead of pedophilia-centric and even aimed toward older kids, teenagers. So for me, they're bringing up right now, I think I've talked about it. While I was here, actually last year, I was here. They would do this thing where, well, even today they still do it. That's why I'm scared to go anywhere. Like I'm scared to look at anything because if there's a kid, there's a teenager, there's children of all ages. There's gonna be disturbing things. This has been the theme of my torture and my torment. And so they're gonna do their best to force me to perceive children in these ways. It's crazy. Now I know better. I take a screenshot of it and can post these things and show like this is what they're making me experience, and this is what I should have done. But at that time, I was not being so like descriptive of what's happening to me, and so I regret not having taken a screenshot because if you would have seen who I'm talking about, especially once you see the picture of her like in the this regular way, when she's not. Let me go into details about that. So I was here as always, going to like my Instagram, and they like to make me see things that they want me to see. And I remember like scrolling. The reason why I'm scared to like scroll on my Instagram is because I don't know what one of those reels can be. They've made me have like, and then they don't want to do that, but they made me even have this perception of this like very like young kids, like the Indian little girl. They were trying to make me to see in this disturbing ways. I can always access because I know who it is. I can easily go and bring that up and show what they do. To what they did, it was obvious. Like she looked like weird, tried to dance. It was so nasty, and they tried to force me to look at her in a sexual way. And so now later on they did this thing with this like older kid, right? When you see her videos, she was dancing kind of in a sexual way. I got some strong stimulation, right? This is an older kid that maybe could go into like late teen to maybe like young adulthood, like one of those like kind of hard to differentiate, like to a little bit of a blur, right? Because that's like the age where it's harder to depict. Like a 14-year-old kid, you gonna know it's a 14-year-old kid. A 15 too, you gonna know. Like 16, most that becomes harder, and 17 become like so. She's in that age where it's harder to tell. It's like I don't know if she's a very young adult or she's a teenage kid. But I'm getting disturbing stimulation, and this is like a reel. And so the reel on Instagram is like when they do the dancing and the whatever. And so I go onto like a profile. Oh my goodness! So in the video, they can play with my perception a little bit better, because it's a picture. The video is kind of close up and whatever, so they can create this perception I go on the picture, on the profile picture. This is like this skinny 17-year-old. Like, oh, I was like, okay, this is never gonna, never natural, never, could never. But in the video, they were able to create this perception and give me stimulations. I'm like, oh my gosh, look at this kid. What will she do to me? And so, when you and then they try to make me. And then yesterday, there was this person I saw. She is what you call a Instagram model. Mid-20s or not, very, very, very voluptuous. And I mean, I'm not perfect. I'm gonna say that straight. I've looked at women in a sexual way. I'm not perfect. I know my imperfections, and I will talk about them because they're trying to raise them. Even though I'm not proud of my imperfection, I gotta accept that I have my own imperfections. And so I'm looking at this woman, and they try to make me find ways to relate this young 25-year-old to this kid. Now that kid is like a skinny teenager, like nothing wrong with her. She hasn't grown up to be a woman yet, right? She's still like kind of lengthy, and nothing wrong with being skinny. I'm not here to body shame people, but it's because the way they try to even make me have this comparison to other people, it's just like, are you delusional? I know they've been able to manipulate me in this way. It's just the way they can do things. And this kid was like a Brazilian kid and whatever, and they would give me stimulations. The intensity of what I was getting was crazy. It was so stimulation. The stimulation was so extreme. And then I'm just thankful that the profile picture kind of like exposed reality. Not exposed, but the profile, her picture with her father and everything. I was like, oh my gosh, this baby, this little kid. She, okay, not a little kid, but this kid, this teenage kid, this 17-year-old teenage kid. She wouldn't do nothing. She was, look at her. This is like, and I'm not here to judge and insult anybody, but if you see who they're trying to make me acceptive, and it's, listen, there are maybe somebody who look like womanly when they're not. No, not, she's skinny little. I'm like, oh my gosh. I just wish I could bring up this picture. I wish I would have taken a screenshot. I wish. Now every time I take a screenshot, I try to record everything they do to me, and show what they try to do to me, how they try to make me think. And it was disgusting. Now, disgusting is an intense word because they've done that to babies as babies. I mean, I've just talked about the 14-year-old, even younger, the babies, the toddlers, the 10-year-old, the 12-year-old. They've done that. Oh, it's so disgusting. So her, who's like in the verge to be an adult, is just okay. It's bad. I force you to be stimulated like that. Look at the skinny, like the perceptions. I understand. You can do that. It's not as bad as the babies. But now they're like, when I'm looking at this woman who's in mid-20s, extremely voluptuous. I'm not gonna lie. She's like, she come out. I'm like, oh my gosh. It's just like, oh. And I'm like, oh, they're trying to counter that by making me think of this little 17-year-old Brazilian slim, to try to counter that. And she's like, what's these people? And it was just last year. So you understand, but then I've already made a few videos talking about what they do to me, how they've manipulated my perceptions. I'm walking in the street, they're making me look at kids in this way. It's like just disgusting. I've made videos all about it. Many times. Years before even coming here. So you just gotta be understanding. You have to be understanding that that's the things that I'll never be myself anymore. This is what I'm gonna have to deal with. But these people bring up the things they manipulate themselves. And they're like, oh, you see, and it's like, listen, if you can do that to a baby who's 10 years old, what do you think you can do to a 17-year-old? I know that's what the things they do. But the weirdest part is how they try to make me compare to these other women. So to all target individuals, listen to what they do. This is typical things they've done to me.
What I say, playing with my dog, so that attacks continue. I don't let them get me. Today they continue with the programming of perversion, but this time they are aiming in the use of people better daughter said young people, also children and homosexuals. When I aggravated them, I usually called demeaning names, and one of them is referring to homosexuals. For me, all of the slaves are misfits, society haters, scumbags, etc. No, I don't have anything personal against them, homosexuals, but as my way to aggravate the slaves, and since they love to use children for the torture and stalking, street theater etc. Especially teenagers for the stalking at close range with an attitude, they are using them during my sleep in the perversion program, and so you can imagine what the slaves of torture are pretending to do to me. In the last days, as today September 9th, 07, anything I do, either watching TV or reading of whatever I'm doing, they brush me sort of say, I feel like I'm aroused all day and I feel the palpitations in my genitals for what I'm thinking, and since the attack comes so quickly, I realized my programming has been set on auto, in their central computers, no handlers could do something like this that quick. What make me realized, the slaves are desperate to get me. Unfortunately for them, they are facing a strong wall where no matter how much their computers EAP me, I know I'm not changing. As I said, I feel like they've been set up a beam where I feel constantly stimulated. I'm talking sexually, like a
happens. In 2015, I began to experience what some call V2K, or voice to skull. This involves the projection of voices, noises, and music directly into my mind to communicate with me in real time and at the speed of thought. And it also includes the manipulation of thoughts, emotions, and perceptions in the person's mind.
They're trying to take over my mind, putting thoughts of pedophilia. It's disgusting. They take this whole thing into account so much. I make it so dramatic. It is dramatic. It's somebody trying to end my life. It's somebody trying to end who I am as a person. It's somebody trying to take over my mind, putting thoughts of pedophilia.
Any part of the body. This technology can be used to sexually manipulate the target. It can make the target feel sexual arousal, or it can sort of turn off the